Evelyn Hope. Even the name whispers of the sea. But her story isn't a fairy tale of mermaids and sunken treasure. It's a stark reminder of nature's raw power and the dangerous illusion of control. To understand what happened that day at sea, we have to go back to a quiet coastal town and a little girl who found solace in the waves. Kurgo, Maine, picture weathered docks, the salty temps of seaweed, and the endless grey expanse of the Atlantic. For most, it's a place of hard work and simple living. But for Evelyn, born on a blustery March morning, it was something more. It was a sanctuary, a place where the rhythms of the tides mirrored the currents within her. She wasn't a child drawn to playgrounds and noisy games. Instead, you'd find her exploring the tide pools, her small hands gently turning over rocks to reveal hidden worlds. Barnacles clung tight, starfish sprawled like alien suns, and tiny crabs scuttled sideways, their beady eyes watching her every move. While other children collected seashells, Evelyn collected stories. She'd spend hours observing the intricate dance of life in these miniature ecosystems, learning their secrets, their fragility, their resilience. Even then, she possessed a rare and unnerving stillness, a quiet intensity that made some adults uncomfortable. "She's a strange one," they'd whisper, watching her from afar. But Evelyn didn't care. She was more at home in the company of gulls and sandpipers than with her peers. The sea was her confidant, her teacher, her only true friend. This connection to the ocean wasn't just a childhood fascination. It was woven into the fabric of her being. And perhaps, in some inexplicable way, it was also a response to a profound and early trauma. When Evelyn was just 5 years old, her father, a seasoned fisherman, lost his boat in a sudden squall. He was presumed lost at sea, his body never recovered. The tragedy cast a long shadow over the Hope family. Evelyn's mother, a woman of quiet strength, struggled to hold the family together. Grief became a constant companion, a silent presence at the dinner table, a heavy weight in the air. While her mother found solace in the church and her older brother turned to sports, Evelyn retreated further into the embrace of the ocean, where others saw a symbol of loss. She saw a connection to her father. She imagined him swimming among the fishes, exploring the coral reefs, forever a part of the underwater world. The ocean had taken him, yes, but it had also offered him a new kind of freedom. This unique perspective shaped her worldview. She developed a deep respect for the power and mystery of the marine environment and a fierce determination to protect it. She devoured books about Jacques Cousteau, Sylvia Earle, and Rachel Carson, dreaming of one day becoming a marine biologist, a voice for the voiceless creatures of the deep. School was a necessary evil, tolerated only for the opportunities it provided to learn more about the ocean. She excelled in science, devoured every documentary she could find, and spent her free time volunteering at a local marine rehabilitation center. It was here, amidst the stench of fish and the cacophony of injured seabirds, that she truly found her calling. She nursed oiled seals back to health, cleaned tangled fishing nets from the flippers of sea turtles, and helped release rehabilitated dolphins back into the wild. These experiences solidified her resolve. She knew that she wanted to dedicate her life to understanding and protecting marine life, to bridging the gap between humans and the ocean. By the time she reached high school, Evelyn was a force of nature. Her passion was infectious, her knowledge encyclopedic. She organized beach cleanups, lobbied for stricter fishing regulations, and even convinced her school to install a rainwater harvesting system to reduce its environmental impact. She was a tireless advocate, a voice for the ocean in a world that often seemed deaf to its cries. But beneath her unwavering dedication, a seed of conflict began to sprout. She admired the work of marine parks like SeaWorld, recognizing their potential to educate the public and inspire conservation. But she also harbored a growing unease about the ethics of keeping intelligent and social creatures in captivity. She grappled with the question, could the educational benefits of these parks outweigh the inherent cruelty of confining animals to artificial environments? It was a question that would haunt her for years to come, a moral dilemma that would ultimately lead her down a dangerous and unforeseen path. Despite her reservations, Evelyn couldn't deny the allure of SeaWorld. It represented the pinnacle of marine research and conservation efforts, a place where she could work alongside the world's leading experts and make a real difference in the lives of marine animals. So, against the advice of some of her mentors, who urged her to pursue a more traditional academic route, Evelyn applied for an internship at SeaWorld San Diego. She knew it was a gamble, a leap of faith into a world that might challenge her deeply held beliefs. But she also knew that she couldn't stay on the sidelines, that she had to confront the complexities of marine conservation head-on. She was accepted, of course. Her resume was impeccable, her passion undeniable. And so, at the age of 18, Evelyn Hope packed her bags, said goodbye to the familiar shores of Maine, and set off for California, ready to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Little did she know that this journey would not only test her convictions, but would ultimately lead her to a terrifying encounter that would forever change the marine world. Evelyn's connection to Nyros wasn't just a working relationship. It was a lightning strike of mutual understanding in a world built on shallow interactions. He was a bull orca, past his prime by SeaWorld standards, carrying the weight of years spent circling concrete. Other trainers saw a volatile animal, unpredictable and best avoided. Evelyn saw something different, a reflection of the quiet grief she carried within herself. Their bond began subtly. Simple feedings became prolonged silences at the tank's edge. While other trainers relied on whistles and rigid commands, Evelyn offered patience. She observed Nyros, learning his rhythms, his moods, communicating not through demands, but through a language of empathy. And Nyros responded. He began surfacing when she arrived, his vast body turning in slow circles as she approached. He ate better, slept more soundly. His movements, once sluggish, now held a hint of something akin to hope. It wasn't long before they were exclusively paired for training. Evelyn, the whale whisperer, and Nyros, the problem orca. The public ate it up. SeaWorld, masters of crafting captivating narratives, spun a tale of unprecedented connection, a testament to the power of human-animal harmony. Promotional videos flooded the airwaves, showcasing behind-the-scenes moments of Evelyn and Nyros' growing bond. Interviews portrayed Evelyn as a young, charismatic, rising star, destined for greatness within the marine park. But behind the carefully constructed PR facade, Evelyn remained the same girl who whispered to jellyfish on the shores of Kurgal. Fame held no allure for her. She was driven by something far deeper, a yearning for connection, a sacred understanding that transcended the concrete walls of SeaWorld. But here's where the fairy tale began to twist into something far more sinister. The deeper Evelyn's bond with Nyros became, the more she seemed to downplay or even ignore the subtle warning signs that even seasoned trainers recognized. A sudden refusal to perform a routine, a fixed, almost vacant stare, a flick of the tail that landed a little too close for comfort. These were dismissed with a gentle smile and a quiet, "He's just a little moody today. He'll come around," and often he did. Their routines, polished to perfection, captivated audiences. Guests gasped, children squealed, and SeaWorld celebrated. Their miracle of interspecies trust. Evelyn genuinely believed in it. She believed in Neros, but what she failed to see, or perhaps refused to acknowledge, was the subtle but undeniable shift in his behavior. The stillness that turned sharp, the playful nudges that became more forceful, the trust that was slowly but surely eroding. It wasn't that Evelyn was naive. She had witnessed aggression in Orcas before, but with Neros, it felt different. It felt personal, as if something deep within him was unraveling, a wound festering beneath the surface. And yet, driven by an unwavering belief in her ability to heal, she pressed on. Evelyn Hope didn't see the wild as a threat to be subdued. She saw it as wounded, a creature suffering within the confines of captivity. And when you believe you were born to heal something, you don't simply walk away when it starts to bleed. She loved him, and in that love, she made a fatal error. She forgot that no matter how close you stand to the wild, no matter how much trust you build, the wild never truly forgets the distance between you. SeaWorld, of course, was complicit in this tragedy. The park wasn't interested in fostering genuine connection. It was interested in maintaining the illusion of control, the illusion of happiness, the illusion that these majestic creatures were thriving in their artificial environment. Internally, among the staff, there was a quiet acknowledgement of what they called the shift, the subtle, almost imperceptible moment when an orca, after years of performing, began to change. Commands became less effective, tail slaps grew more forceful, and the animals began to rely less on interaction and more on the distractions of lights and music. SeaWorld never spoke of the shift publicly, but trainers, veterinarians, and behaviorists knew it was a real and growing problem. The orcas, confined to cramped concrete enclosures for decades, were beginning to exhibit stereotypic behaviors. Obsessive circling, gnawing on metal grates, slamming against the gates. These were clear signs of stress, of frustration, of minds slowly breaking down. And yet, every time someone raised a concern, they were met with the same dismissive response. "It's under control." Evelyn saw it happening, not just in Neros, but in the younger whales, growing increasingly anxious, and the older ones, becoming withdrawn and listless. In countless meetings, she voiced her concerns, saying what others were too afraid to say. Aloud, this isn't just fatigue, this is breaking point behavior. But SeaWorld was preparing for summer. A new marketing campaign was already locked in. Corporate sponsors were watching. A single cancelled show could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was no room for doubt, no room for acknowledging the cracks in the facade. Emails from her manager were subtly dismissive. "Let's not panic over small shifts in attitude. Keep the sessions short. Increase enrichment." Another added, "Neros is a legacy performer. The public expects to see him. We trust your judgment, Evelyn." They trusted her, but only when it suited the schedule, only when it supported the bottom line. And there was something particularly insidious about that trust. It disguised itself as confidence, but it functioned as a liability transfer. If anything went wrong, it wouldn't be the fault of the system. It would be the fault of the trainer. Evelyn understood this, and yet she stayed. Because she wasn't there for SeaWorld. She was there for What she didn't know was that Nairo's file had already been quietly scrubbed clean. To earlier incidents, both involving Nairo's lunging at trainers during nighttime routines, had been discreetly removed from the internal systems HR had classified them as miscommunication events. Both trainers had been reassigned and forced to sign non-disclosure agreements, silencing them forever. Evelyn was never informed to the public. Nero's remained a symbol of harmony, his image plastered on souvenir cups, his name echoing through the stadium before every show. The mighty nut. He was a brand, a product, one that sold tickets, t-shirts, and dreams. And as long as he kept moving, the illusion held. But the cracks were spreading. Veterinary logs revealed irregular sleep cycles, decreased appetite, and abrasions on his dorsal fin from excessive pacing. But each concern was met with carefully crafted, dismissive language. No immediate cause for concern, ... within expected parameters, ... monitoring closely. They weren't monitoring, they were deflecting. SeaWorld didn't need the truth, it needed control, and Evelyn, gifted, devoted, and increasingly uneasy, was slowly becoming a liability. In private, co-workers whispered about her. She's getting too close. She won't report things unless they're really serious. But Evelyn wasn't reckless. She was loyal, and that loyalty had morphed into a dangerous silence. She stopped documenting the small warning signs, stopped reporting Nero's increasing agitation. If no one was willing to act on them, what was the point? Still, her unease grew. In the tank, Nairos had begun avoiding eye contact. His routines lacked their former rhythm. He would start a maneuver, only to break it off midway. He ignored signals, circled tighter, and sank deeper. One morning, during a private training session, he charged the underwater gate with such force that it rattled the entire stadium. Evelyn stood frozen, watching the echo ripple across the water. She didn't report that incident either. Deep down, she already knew that Nairos was slipping, that the walls of his world were closing in, and that the illusion SeaWorld clung to was just one bad moment away from complete and utter collapse. The news of Evelyn's death spread like an oil slick across the marine world, staining everything it touched. Tragic accident, SeaWorld declared in its carefully worded statement, a phrase that tasted like ash in the mouths of those who knew the truth. But this was no accident. It was the inevitable consequence of years of neglect, of prioritizing profit over the well-being of sentient creatures, of turning a blind eye to the growing unrest simmering beneath the surface of the shimmering blue tanks. The performance that day was not just a show. It was a spectacle of desperation, a final, horrifying act in a long-running play, where the script was written in dollars and the actors were trapped in roles they never chose. The applause, the music, the bright smiles, all of it masked the decay, the rot that had been festering within the park for years. This wasn't simply about one rogue orca, one unfortunate trainer. It was about a systemic failure, a culture of denial that allowed warning signs to be dismissed, concerns to be silenced, and ultimately, a life to be lost. It was about the inherent cruelty of confining intelligent, social beings to artificial environments, forcing them to perform unnatural tricks for the amusement of paying customers. The very concept of SeaWorld, of any marine park, began to unravel under the weight of this tragedy. The carefully constructed illusion of harmony between humans and animals shattered, revealing the stark reality of captivity, concrete walls, restricted movement, and the constant gnawing frustration of a life unlived. Evelyn's death became a catalyst, a turning point in the public perception of orca captivity. The romanticized image of these majestic creatures leaping through hoops was replaced with a new understanding of their complex social structures, their immense intelligence, and their profound suffering in confinement. The questions that had been whispered in activist circles for years were now being shouted from the rooftops. What is the true cost of entertainment? Is it ethical to confine these animals for our amusement? The immediate aftermath was chaotic. SeaWorld scrambled to control the narrative, but the internet had other plans. Graphic videos of the attack, captured by horrified onlookers, flooded social media. Bypassing the carefully curated press releases and sanitized news reports, the public saw the blood, the struggle, the raw terror in Evelyn's final moments. They saw the cold, lifeless body being lifted from the water. They saw the truth. Outrage erupted. Social media campaigns called for boycotts of SeaWorld. Protests sprung up outside the park gates. Celebrities and influencers denounced the park. The hashtag empty. The tanks became a rallying cry for activists around the world. Former SeaWorld employees, many bound by non-disclosure agreements, began to speak out, risking legal repercussions to share their stories of animal mistreatment, of cover-ups, and of the pressure to prioritize profits over welfare. They revealed the dark underbelly of the industry, the side the public never saw, the cramped holding pens, the forced separations of mothers and calves, the drugging of whales to control their behavior. Veterinarians came forward with damning evidence of chronic health problems in captive orcas, compromised immune systems, dental damage from chewing on concrete, and shortened lifespans. They exposed the fallacy of SeaWorld's claims that their whales lived longer and healthier lives in captivity than in the wild. The tide had turned. SeaWorld, once a beloved family destination, became a pariah, a symbol of animal exploitation. The company's stock plummeted. Attendance dwindled. Sponsors pulled their support. Lawsuits piled up, filed by animal rights groups, by former employees, and even by Evelyn's family. The legal battles dragged on for years, exposing even more damning evidence and forcing SeaWorld to defend its practices in the public arena. But the most significant impact of Evelyn's death was the shift in public consciousness. People began to understand that orcas are not simply performing animals. They are complex, intelligent beings with their own needs and desires. They began to recognize the inherent cruelty of keeping these animals in captivity, denying them the freedom to roam the ocean, to live in their family pods, and to express their natural behaviors. The death of Evelyn Hope became a turning point. It was a tragedy, yes, but it was also a catalyst for change, a wake-up call that shook the marine world to its core and forced a reckoning with the ethics of keeping orcas in captivity. The cheers slowly faded. The spotlight shifted to reveal the truth, and the ocean finally began to reclaim its voice. Evelyn's story became the opening chapter to the end of an era. The era of the orca shows and the captive sea mammal.